welcome to the post-show podcast. Here with John Peacock, John Mussone here, talking a little football, Venice high school football and regular football and college football and NFL football for tonight. And Coach, we just got done talking about Friday night. I don't think we want to probably go much more than we did on the show, but just for those who don't watch the podcast, let's just say it was a tough one Friday night, and we came off with a loss, and hopefully we can go out and make a run in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's the plan. We're like I said, we're going to focus on and move forward from there, and hopefully, play with a little bit of chip on our shoulder and have a little bit of revived focus and energy about us, and kind of play upset and with something to prove, and I think that our kids are excited about that, and we're going to do the best we can to take one game at a time and just kind of move forward one game at a time.
In the playoffs, with a few exceptions here and there, the majority of the games we play the last, I'd say maybe 5, 7, 8 years, whatever it's been, we're never the underdog. We're never the guy kind of coming out of adversity. We're coming off a one loss or no loss regular season, and we're the Maserati. We look good, coming in there. So maybe there's an opportunity to kind of change the narrative on that. You can play the underdog role. You're the upset guy now. Which hasn't been a role we've had in a long time.
No, you're right. And I'm not sure we really ever had that role. Maybe Trey's first year, 07.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but we're unknown.
But after 08, we kind of established ourselves who we were, and and our losses were always to big time opponents, and we're not used to these types of losses that we had this year. So I think our kids are upset, and I think they do have something to prove, and I think it does mean a lot to them, and not only the kids. Like I talked about in the show, it's the coaches as well.
Yeah.
That we're all in this together. We're not sitting here. I'm not sitting here and saying it's the kids' fault that we lost. It's my fault just as much as theirs. So I'm kind of in it with them, and I have something to prove as well. So
collectively, fan base, parents, me, everybody looks at us as, what can we do? You feel like you want to. It's like you're injured in some way. How can we help and fix this, and how can we make some things right? Because we don't. The culture you've built is that you don't want to be in that situation.
Right.
You don't want to do that. And it's funny talking about losing certain games and certain situations. I remember back when Steve Spurrier was still the head coach of Florida. He'd say, man, every time we lose a game, they tear the goalpost down. He goes, one time I want to tear the goalpost down. I like to be the guy because every time we lose, it's earth shattering. It's generational, or whatever how you want to put it. And so when you do things, you do it well, and you've been on a roll. Sometimes watching that, I guess there's a little bit of an appreciation just from the fact that, hey, look, that means a lot. But on the flip side, like, I don't like the way this feels.
No, it's humbling for sure.
That's for sure.
And don't get me wrong, I don't want to take anything away from our opponents that did beat us. They deserve it, and they deserve to rip down the goalpost. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. That's why you say, look, I can appreciate that because they did the job tonight. Whatever it took, they did what it took.
Yeah, but I like that. It's going to be our turn to rip down some goalposts in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's something because again, it's always been sort of like there's sort of an expectation. I tell you, I said, hey, I got 7 phone calls on Saturday morning from all these guys. And it's what happened,
Right.
And it's not what happened like, it's almost like stunned. Tell me that a spaceship landed on the field, what was
just a monsoon.
Just a 10-minute monsoon.
That cost 13 points.
But I say, but I'm like, no, sometimes you just like, I wish I had.
It's been the perfect storm.
Times.
Been the perfect storm twice. I mean, you look back like Hail Mary, last second field goal, 4 turnovers. Like
short fields.
Could it have been even worse? Could it have been worse?
If you gave me 3 opportunities to score from starting at their 14, I might feel pretty good about the outcome of that game.
And then last week it's like 4 turnovers, mini monsoon. So it's been they've had the ingredients and. For some upsets, and hats off to them for taking advantage of it. And I was thinking the other day, like, usually we're that team taking advantage of people's mistakes, and that we're making mistakes now, and it seems like we're making mistakes, and then we're also handing it to them like, hey, go ahead and here, not only will we make a mistake, but let's give it to you on the 5-yard line mistake. You know, and we even did that against Coco. We had a turnover, but let's not just have a turnover. Let's have a turnover and give it to him in the 1. You know, type of deal. So
and then now give it to them with the 1. They scored a 99-yard touchdown right after that.
Yeah.
So it seems like how turnovers can affect the game. We talked a little bit about this earlier, but they affect the game in such a different way. There's usually a big change in momentum.
We gave them on the -1 and the +1.
Yep.
You know, so one play they had to go 1 yard, the next play they went 99. You know, so it's been a crazy year, and I'm glad it's over. You know?
Yeah, because it almost feels like you're right. It almost feels like you said we had a banquet in the locker room. Everything's
we did.
cool,
it was great. You know,
and it's sort of like it's like a cleanse. Off we go, and onto the thing where it's.
We're starting the 2019 B season.
There's usually a game or two regular season. I'll talk about all the success we had in the playoffs, but 1 or 2 regular season games that you look back and go, that was a great game, or remember that you can vividly remember. But every game you play in the playoffs, you remember every one of those, and that's kind of cool because that's where you're headed, which is cool, which is fun, which is a lot of fun. Now, a lot of people ask another thing. So, what is your game? What is it like after? I said, well, everything is always when I'm going to the locker room afterwards with you guys that are back there. It's sort of you're prepping again for the next game. So prepping for the playoffs. Obviously, you're looking. Is there any added, or is it just, things that you do, or you just go into it with the same approach as you do a regular season game?
Well,
for your preparation, coach's preparation.
No, I mean we approach every game the exact same. There's no different whoever we're playing. There really is not. I mean, we prep is how we prep, and we look at our opponents. And I think we've done a couple different things this year where we've had what we've done is against a couple opponents is we've had one formation and ran that one formation, and we had 5 or 6 plays out of that formation, and we stuck with it all night, except for third down. If a third down situation or 3rd and long, we kind of broke from that, or maybe it was a play where we're coming out for the series, the first play of the series, and did something different. But we've done that twice. We've been really good at it. And it really has limited our mistakes, and we've been able to go really, really fast. And I think we're gonna stick with that the rest of the way through. And we seem to have a lot more success when we are, hey, we're going to be in this formation and run these plays. Even though that may sound crazy, like, Coach, you're going to run the same formation every play? Yeah, we're going to run the same formation every play, and we're going to be really good at it.
Well, it's funny you say, because one of the things that in the past that has come into play, especially the last 3 or 4 years, is our conditioning, is the pace of our game. And when you have situations where there's turnovers or there's weather or there's certain things that come about, it's kind of hard to get that tempo going. Or you have a incompletion or something along those lines, and you do, and again, and I think that this year in particular, I've only seen maybe a handful of times where our opponents were dragging. You always have 1 or 2 guys that cramp up. I don't care what, it could be 40 degrees out or it could be 180 degrees out.
I think Manatee
they were getting tired.
Yeah,
but it wasn't to the magnitude of years gone by, where you just see a massive amount of, that the other team looks like they ain't have nothing left, and it's the middle of the 3rd quarter, and how are we going to get through this? And I think that's good. I mean, for us, for me, I'd love to see us really get that tempo back where it was and maybe in this year. Do you remember a game you really felt like you got that tempo going really good this year? I don't recall one in particular. There's spurts, but not a game where it was just like.
Well, I think Lakewood
tempo.
Ranch we had some good tempo.
Yeah, you're right, and Sarasota a little too, maybe.
And those are the 2 games where we were simple.
Right.
I think Riverview we had some good tempo, and to start off, but then we've had. The problem is, you can't have tempo if you're turning the ball over 4 times, and especially in a game where you have 9 possessions and 4 of them in turnovers. So that's the big thing. I think we were really on the right track this past Friday night until the snap over the head that had caused us to turn. We were kind of
fast
chewing it up on the ground, and I really felt good about how things were going, and then all of a sudden, boom,
Yeah, and sometimes I even say this from probably you're in the middle of a game. Every game is different. It kind of takes its own life. But sometimes you get into a point where you're like, oh, a turnover. Sometimes it changes the way you're thinking how you're game playing, because now you're behind by 13, or you're behind by
Right.
a certain point, and you're like, okay, I got to do something different.
Yep.
And it's not because everybody does that. If something's not going right, you're like, okay, what do we do? You know, you have to, and that gets you off your
Right.
game plan a little bit. Speaking of game plan, I mean, obviously you go in with a game plan every week. You know, you're walking in there with an idea with certain things. So,
We got a question.
oh, okay, question. We can do that.
All right.
Someone said, what do you think you could have done better to prepare for Manatee?
Well, the question was, what do you think you could have done better to prepare for Manatee? Well, I answered that a lot of things. You know, we really, going into that game, we were kind of thinking that they were going to be pass heavy because they haven't been successful on the ground. And I think we could have done a better job, a little bit of rotation on our defensive line. I think we could have done a better job sticking with the run a little bit longer in the first half. I mean, there's a lot of things, laundry list of things you could do better. It's tough to, you know, hindsight is 20/20. You know, I mean, I can sit here and go down a lot of things that we could have done better, and you know, not calling this play and call a different play, but it's a lot easier after the fact than it is during the fact.
Yeah, it's always because that's self-scouting. Yeah, he's going to do it. So
We've been really, really spoiled, you know, since we've been running this offense. 3 of the years was with Bryce Carpenter.
right.
You know, so you know, by his 3rd year, I mean, I didn't have to give him a signal. He can just probably look at me and know I wanted to run.
Yeah.
You know, and then last year with Hayden Wolf, I mean, he was a dynamic player and smart and just really good football player. And he picked it up and knew kind of what we were trying to get accomplished and was able to do it really, really quickly. And then now we're on 3 guys, you know, and Stefan, this is maybe I think his 3rd or 4th week. And then Ryan coming in late, transferring in late to us.
That can be hard because you got a small window, get ready,
Yeah.
and then learn on the go. It's got to be a lot to
I mean,
digest.
I think Ryan came here 3 weeks before the season, or maybe 2 weeks before the season even started, and it's a lot to learn. And he's done a great job at it. You know, he's done a great job, and it's just one of those situations that it's tough. You know, it's tough to get all the ins and outs and everything.
Yeah.
But we're getting there. You know, we're getting there, and I think one thing that, you know, is going to help us is, you know, we got to run this up the pass, and we got to really, really be good at running the ball, and we got to rely on, you know, Thomas Schrader and Ethan Moore and Carson Peters and those big boys up front, and Mike Rainey and Matt Cochran and, you know, Haney to get it done up front and to kind of ride their coattails. And these running backs have got to, you know, they got to step up and be able to run the ball hard and be able to get us 3 yards no matter what. And I think we got to take that kind of attitude going forward.
One of the things I brag about Venice High School football in particular is all the places we've been. We travel on buses, we traveled on airplanes, we've traveled all over the place. But when we travel, I've always said how disciplined we are as a team traveling.
Right.
I mean, you're very much about this schedule and being on time for certain things, and the kids follow that pretty good. Do you think that maybe after this season, that playing on the road is not a bad thing? Because now you're focused up. The minute you get on the bus.
Before this season, we were 77-8 at home.
Right.
So.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but this maybe this team is just the road warriors are where they're going to be. You know. Who knows?
I think when I first took over, I liked being on the road as a coach a little bit better because of that fact.
Mm-hmm.
I used to always say that, you know, 07, 08, 09, I liked being on the road because we have a schedule and we didn't have the facilities we have now.
Right.
I think at one point we were actually in 3 portables. So you can imagine, you know, your locker room is in portables and you don't have any running water.
Right.
And then in 1 year, you know, we were in the old locker room.
Absolutely.
Which, you know, wouldn't fit, you know, third period PE class.
Right, and it had its share of.
And it had the varsity JV and freshmen, and it was a huge distraction. And it was all kind of broken up and chipped tile and
things that wouldn't lock and
horrible.
Doors that didn't.
There was more rats in there than players.
It's true.
You know, now we have a nice facility at home, and so it makes it kind of easy at home. But at the same fact, you know, being on the, you're right. You have a tight schedule, and you go eat pregame meal, you get on the bus, you walk through tape,
Yeah.
kick it off. You know, and it's it does make it nice.
It just seems like sometimes there's not distractions. You're sort of sequestered. You're away from everybody.
Right.
But
no, you're
in
exactly
there,
right.
but on the road, you are. I mean, that's it. And I always notice that the locker room has got a little bit more of a business attitude.
Yeah.
As opposed to, you're sort of there and you got all the
Right.
little
No, you're right.
distractions. You're sitting next to your buddy or whatever it may be, and so.
You're exactly right. So that that does make me happy that hey, at least we're going to be focused. At least we're going to be focused on the task at hand, and I think I think if we can just get a couple games and get a win at Lehigh, I think we can put some wins back in our sail and kind of revive us a little bit and say, hey, you know what, we're not that bad.
Right.
Because we're not that bad.
No.
Our record's bad.
No, like I said, that's the other part. So again, what's going on? I'm like, listen, this team has all the potential of any team I've ever seen. It's just a matter of it coming together, and that's the. So sometimes it happens in game 2, sometimes it happens in game 10. You just don't know. Hopefully, it happens before that. If you can have,
Hopefully, it happens game 10.
Right. So that's what we're saying. We don't want it or not happen at all. But I mean, it's just sometimes you look at it, because I don't, like I said, you look around and you don't say, hey, there's a big gap missing here or a big gap missing. It's just a matter of have it all kind of coming together with that. So I mean, so that's kind of, I guess, a wrap on the postseason. We'll talk more about the playoffs obviously next week, but we have our picks.
So last week I was 3-2.
I was a whopping 1-4.
Not
After
good.
coming off a better week the week before, not publicly, but I had a better week the week before. So we're going to go through. Why don't you go ahead and do yours first?
Okay. Well then, my first game. Let's see where I got it here. My first game, I'm going to go with TCU +4.
Okay, +4. Yeah.
Or actually TCU +3
Yep.
at Oklahoma State.
Okay.
That's one of my picks. I'm going to go Miami +3.5 at Florida State. It was +4, and you're laughing because those are your picks?
No, I was going to pick Miami and Florida State,
You
but
can still pick
I
it.
might go the other direction. No, that's what I was. That's why.
Really?
That was one of my last ones I picked because I don't know. It's a weird deal. Miami, Florida State is messed up. I would say they're not playing very well, but I'm going to tell you that I think that Miami might be more messed up. But
I'm going Miami +3.5 at Florida State, and I'm also going to go with UAB +12 at Tennessee.
Okay.
UAB +12 at Tennessee.
A red hot Tennessee, by the way.
Red hot Tennessee, by the way, yeah. I'm gonna go Oregon -4.5 at USC. And my final one is Fresno +1.5 at Hawaii.
Okay. All right, I like that. All right, so my first pick is going to be, I'm taking UCF -22
Ooh.
with Houston. Houston, if Houston had De'Aaron King and
Yeah, the
everybody else,
quarterback.
they'd be a different story. But I think that UCF hasn't really had two
Houston
losses.
covered last week, big time.
Yeah, but I think playing at UCF, UCF gets some momentum going at home.
They're at UCF?
They're at UCF. So I'm going to take, and it's early, and it could be hot. So we'll see. So I say I'm going UCF -22.
It's not cool in Houston, I don't think.
No, it's not. It's not Orlando hot. Orlando
Yes,
hot's
that's true.
Orlando hot is really
Yeah.
bad when it's there. That's a guy who lived there for a while. Next game, I'm going to go. Where is it? Oh, I'm going to take Army +14.5 at Air Force. I don't think that Army loses by. I think they're two equally
Wow,
matched
that's a
teams.
pretty big spread.
Yeah, so 14.5. I like Army over with Air Force, even though it is being played at Air Force. I am going to go to the Miami-Florida State game, and I'm going to take FSU -3.5. I'm going to have them by winning by more than 3.5. I just don't know if Miami. I could be 100% wrong, and probably everybody's looking at me saying a Gator fan picking Miami. I mean, I just think that Florida State, there's a chance for them to beat them by a decent amount. I think this might be the team that they can do it against. Obviously, I got to pick the Florida-Georgia game, and if you're going to give me 6.5, I'll take Florida in the 6.5.
You're betting with your heart there.
Well, I think I am, but I also will tell you. So this game, you're going to get a little feel for the game. I think that Georgia, while I think they are a very good football team, I think that they play conservative style of football, and this year they've been forced to play conservatively. I don't think that Fromm has the weapons he's had in the past, and they don't have a three-headed monster in the running back position. They have one guy. I think he's very talented. I think he can run for way more than 100 yards. I just look at Florida, and I was more impressed by Florida's last two wins, last two games, I should say, the loss to LSU and the win against South Carolina, than I have been with them any time in the year, because I just look at Florida and say, LSU is the best team in the country right now. They're playing like the best team in the country.
I disagree with that.
Well, I just love the way they're playing. If Joe Burrow keeps throwing the ball at an 85% completion percentage,
But we'll find out.
Alabama, absolutely. There's the moment.
Yeah.
So I think in this particular case, I like Florida because you've got a quarterback who manages the game a little better than the previous quarterback did. I think they're healthy on defense. I think the pass rush that they're going to bring now, that the two guys should be healthy, is going to make it very hard for them to throw, and you're going to make Georgia one-dimensional. And the fact that Florida overcame a rainy day in South Carolina with a very good defensive-minded head coach and a great LSU defense, and still scored potentially 35, but 28. I think they're going to be over 20.
If they would have scored 35, a lot of people have been happy.
Oh yeah, absolutely, way happier. A lot of people we watched the game with that night too. So I like Florida with a 6.5. I think they win outright. 6.5. My fourth game is I'm going to take Utah minus 3.5 against Washington, at Washington. I think Utah is. I think the Utah and Oregon
they're a tough program. Those kids, they got tough kids.
And I know it's at Washington, but I just like the way Utah's playing. They're coming out and they're playing solid football. And then my last game is near the end of my little schedule here. And I am going to take BYU at Utah State. I like Utah State giving 3.5 to BYU. I think Utah State is one of those teams that plays out west that is, everybody sees them as sort of like this, very small. But I think that they're quietly one of the better, more consistent programs in the West. And I think BYU has had they beat Tennessee, but they've had some really sort of shaky games.
Right.
And I like Utah State as a home favorite against BYU. So those are my 5 games. So
we'll see. We'll talk about them next week.
Yeah, and one with the heart for sure. One with the head with picking Florida State though. I mean, that's for me to pick. That's a different way to roll. But I think that there's something on the door for 2 SEC teams to get in, because that might be the one. Because it depends on how we got Oregon and Utah, that they're going to come down, and if they don't lose 2 one-loss teams, how much love does the Pac-10 get? Does Ohio State keep on an undefeated run right now, and then they would get a spot? And then of course you have Clemson, who everybody is down on. I mean, you're undefeated and you're the defending national champion, and you're ranked 5th in the country right now. It seems weird with the returning quarterback and a lot of dudes that are 5 stars running around the field. So it's going to be interesting. I think though that with the SEC, it'll shake out for that championship game, and it depends on how. I think the Alabama LSU loser could be the team that kind of backdoors a potential.
Right. Because they only have 1 loss, and Florida gets, like I said, Florida gets the reward of, if they run the table, get their head beaten in by Alabama, they'd be better off not playing that game to possibly get in.
Well, and back in the day, that was the biggest thing. Like, man, the conference championship stinks because we ran the schedule, and now we're going to play somebody else like that team again or that team for one time. Yeah. So it does happen that way.
All right, well, good show.
A quick question for you, just really quick before we go. Speaking about football, NFL football. Okay, you were at a game.
Yeah, I get to see Trey play this weekend. Decided after the game I had to get the heck out of here, and went up there and watched him play. It was a great experience.
It's too bad that Forrest Lamb couldn't play.
I know he broke his ankle and wasn't able to make the trip. But I think that's the third time I was able to see Trey. This is probably the most enjoyable one, just because of where our seats were. We had great seats. I mean, we were basically in shouting distance of
calling plays.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was really cool watching.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. But I was going to say that the NFL, we oftentimes, and we don't get fined for saying certain things, but we talk about refereeing in certain situations.
Well, I get fined for saying stuff.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that's what I'm saying.
We're not going to talk about high school referees.
No, we're not talking about
all
that.
right.
But everybody says, oh, that call, this call, that call, and you come to expect it. It's a high school football game, whatnot. But in the NFL, obviously, refereeing has become a major issue with the NFL because there's now you can throw a flag to fight over a pass interference penalty.
Wow.
Now all of a sudden they don't, you say, oh, I think it's wrong. Review it. What is your feeling about where the refereeing is in the NFL as far as with the reviewing is? You think it's over the top? I think it's over the top.
I think it's part of the game. Okay. Now I guess I can't say that, but I would say, but the pass interference deal, that's it's part of the game. You expect the NFL guy to be very good at his job and be
right.
Not biased to any team, or try to stick it to another team.
Yeah.
Or stick it to another coach. So I think they should get rid of that because 9 times out of 10 they're anytime anyway.
Right, because it's a judgment call.
Right, it is a judgment call.
Because you can say, well, how did this hand movement or this pull down affect certain situations?
And it's one of the hardest things to see. It is really, really one of the hardest things to see. I mean, you got a referee that's right there on it, and he's got to see, one, did the receiver catch it? Were his feet in bounds?
Right.
Did the ball hit the ground? Is it just hand movement, or is it really truly pass interference?
Well, and I tell you, too, one of the things I've seen at a high school game for us this year, and I've seen it maybe a little bit here and there in college football, but I think that I don't like when referees assume they saw something. You're 10 yards behind the play, and you assume that had to be pass interference, or you assume that's a holding penalty, or you assume it's a face mask when it's not, or whatever it may be. But I saw in a game where they threw a flag, and like 3 or 4 times, the referees collectively got together and picked the flag up. In a game that we won, I think it might have been Lakewood Ranch. I'm not positive which game it was.
It was Lakewood Ranch.
And they threw a flag, and they went together. They talked for 3 minutes, and they said, "Did you see? I saw something different." They discussed it. They said, "You didn't see that? What I saw?" Okay, then I'm good with that because I wasn't 100% on it, but I threw the flag. I don't want to see a flag in every play because you assume something, but I like the idea that the guys in the field are discussing it as opposed to saying, "Well, I'm not going to get involved. Let's throw it up to the guy in the booth." And I think that's a big issue because those guys in the field are a team. They're supposed to be a team. So if in any team situation, what's the harm in huddling up and saying, "Hey, Bill," or "Hey, Charlie, what'd you call on that play? A face mask." I'm like, I had the other view, and there was no face mask. I'm 100% on that. And for that guy to be humble enough to say, "Okay, I'm good."
Right.
I think that's where it should go.
Refereeing's hard. I got thrown into reffing a freshman game, one of my first couple years coaching because the refs didn't show up. It's tough. You're watching these bodies flying around, all of a sudden the ball's out. Like, was that guy down?
Yeah, right. And I think a lot of times referees don't. I think maybe just feeling like nobody appreciates us. I think the fans have less appreciation maybe for the referees, but I think a lot of times you're looking at some things and as a coach, it's like anything else. It's gamesmanship. You're yelling because you want the next call, or you're trying to say, "Hey man, watch that play. 62 is holding," or whatever it may be, because you want to make aware of it. So you're in that mix of it.
Right.
But I think at the end of the day, you look at them and you say, that's not easy.
No.
They don't get a break.
No.
Some of these guys that referee in high school,
as long as they're being
man.
fair and calling it fair and square.
Right.
It is what it is.
The best game when I see a well-refereed game is when both teams have 5 penalties.
Yeah.
And there was no play that they called that had any effect. There wasn't like a play that was on 4th down and 2 guys are fighting for a ball and they throw a flag because it had to be, or that just drop out of their pocket. When they make let the guys play, let the athletes play the game.
Yeah.
And what are they calling? Obvious stuff, offsides. They're calling, hey, if somebody's coming in a pass rush, can you drag them to the ground? Yeah, obviously holding, that
Right.
kind of stuff. Not these interpretations. I think that's probably one of the problems.
Yeah.
I think the problem at the high school level is that there's interpretations.
Yep.
Everybody's got a different interpretation of something.
Exactly
and
right.
that's what works. But anyway, I want to just get a little bit, because it's been I hear it on sports radio all day long.
Yeah.
Referees, and I think we have a little different view of it than the average guy. So that's that for the referees. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching our post-game podcast from here at Off the Wagon. Again, thanks to Off the Wagon for everything they do for us.
Yes.
For our Tuesday nights here, and look forward to a lot more Tuesday nights coming up here in the next
I hope
few
so.
weeks. Absolutely. All right, with that, I'm John Mussone, John Peacock. See y'all next week on the podcast.